Hey everybody, I'm finally getting to the video for this week, and you have all the reading, you have, the stuff that's already built inside the course for this unit, but in light of, our current sort of social climate, mostly today what I wanted to talk about and think about in regard to this unit is what it means to be a dad depending on your identity. There have been all kinds of protests and conversations about what it means to be a man, a black man, a man wearing a uniform. Um, and I think about this in terms of our sort of discussion about what it means to be a dad and the masculinity and ideals of masculinity that are woven into that. And so this is going to be a quick video. I'm sure all of you, have been inundated with all the stuff on social media and the news, just like everybody else, kind of. But really, I wanted to highlight, what does that mean, right? I want us to kind of think about it in terms of this current climate. I think it's easy to think about, the stories that we hear about dads who don't show up, and the cute stories we tell about, like, oh, he's trying so hard, and a dad is babysitting his kids tonight, or these kinds of conversations that are much more frequent and normalized and a normal part of our kind of discussion around motherhood. But really, given what's going on, I want us to think about what it means to be a man kind of in general, in this context, in this climate. And what does it mean if you are a man of color, if you're a father of color? And this climate where it's dangerous. What does it mean if you are a father wearing a uniform? What does it mean to be the child of a father in uniform who has been arrested for brutality against another man or another woman, another human being while on the job? When we think about motherhood, I think we talk about all the complexities, and we think about those things maybe in a little bit more sophisticated, way. Women, for example, have disproportionately been bearing the brunt of this pandemic, right? At home with kids, trying to school kids, trying to do all the things, right? Maintain a normal life. And it affects men too, right? I just think we aren't always having that conversation when we talk about motherhood, what it looks like on the flip side. And so really, when you go through your readings and this unit, as you're kind of moving through this, I wonder what it means to be the child of a person of color in this current context where there's so much fear, and rightly so, right? Where you don't know if your loved one is coming back. We've talked about that a little bit in, I think, lots of different classes. Some of you have been with me before. Where missing and murdered Indigenous women are concerned. What does it mean to have, particularly in Canada, for example, an Indigenous mother, sister, auntie, all those things, other mothers in our lives who are women of color? And the threat, the very real threat that is sort of always present, and the fear about whether they're coming home. We're now seeing this flipped a little bit recently, and it's women of color who are being killed as well, right? And if we're talking about the States, Breonna Taylor was killed in her bed when the police bust into her apartment and shot her while she slept. But because we're talking about fatherhood, and because so much of the narrative, particularly in the States around Black men, is this sort of narrative about them being dangerous and up to no good, and I think there's just a very different theme, and because it's just so present, I think it's an interesting way into this section, and an interesting way for us to sort of approach what we think about fatherhood and what it means to be a dad, also what it means to be a man, and how that influences how somebody engages fatherhood, the roles they play in their children's lives, and in a social context like this, where all of a sudden everyone's awareness is really heightened. This stuff has been going on forever, but it's really been pushed to the forefront here in kind of an unprecedented way. And so while we're talking about fatherhood, that's what I want you to think about. What does it mean to be a father of color? What does it mean to be a father in a uniform? How does this play out, and how does it impact how we think about what those expectations and ideals are like, and how how men engage fatherhood depending on their social location. So it's a super quick video. I just wanted you to have a little something to think about where that's concerned, because that's kind of been playing in the forefront of my mind, right? As I've looked at this unit and been thinking about this unit, you can't get away from it on social media. You can't get away from it in our lives, and nor should we get away from it, right? It needs to be at the front of our consciousness, but I think it's not always framed in terms of fatherhood. But that's a really important piece of this conversation that we're having about social justice. And so I wanted to kind of bring that to the class, to our material, and to have it sort of maybe provide a foundation for how we do this unit. Your midterm grades are posted. I want you to know that when you look at the grade book, which is where you should go to find your grades, there's a thing for column for the first part of the midterm, a column for the second part of the midterm, and then a number for your midterm altogether, which will be between 0 and 25 because the midterm's only worth 25%. So that's why that number might say 20.6, but it's out of 25. You're not actually getting 20.6 on the midterm. It's the number of marks that you have out of 25. So it will say, midterm altogether. Like I said, there's midterm 1, midterm 2, and then a third column that gives you your total grade for the midterm overall for the percentage that it's worth. So please don't panic if you have seen a mark and you're freaking out. That's not it. Remember, it's out of 25. That's the amount of marks you got out of the total 25 that you could possibly have gotten on the midterm. Some of you are still handing in papers and navigating, going back to work and kids and everything being upside down. Totally fine. I've tried to respond to everybody, but just know if you haven't handed something in, I keep saying over and over again, it's okay if you need an extension. Just let me know and email me once you've submitted your whatever it is that might be late. Unit 7 will go up here just shortly in the next few days with a video to give you lots of time to sort of get prepping for the midterm, or the final, which will be released on the 19th. And the TA is marking your blogs, and everyone has done fairly well so far for the most part, so well done. And those marks should be up there. I see them going up sort of one by one here, so they should be up right away. If you have any questions, let me know. That's it. Okay, I'll see you guys soon. Have a good weekend.